Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice by Matt show. My name is Matt Bertho. I'm your host, and today I have one of my good friends that I met in Arate Syndicate. His name is Brian Covey. Welcome to the show, Brian.
How about it, Matt? We're ready to jam.
Yeah. So, Brian, I've known you for about a year. We've kind of messaged off and on. I think, kind of the trajectory I'm seeing from you right now, you are speaking all over the place. Vegas, everywhere right now.
Yeah.
But, this show is about how did you find your voice? Maybe some of your origin story. But welcome to the show, man, and just take us where you want to go.
I'm excited to be here. We would unpack a lot, right? I mean, I think my birthday's coming up as we're recording this a week from now. And, kids are in school here in about 2 weeks. And so we're closing out the summer strong. And
You guys are getting in early. They're starting school early.
They don't mess around here. We get good breaks and also like we get some good fall breaks and then we get the good winter break and spring break and everything there. But you have to account for a little bit in Nashville, maybe snow days. Like we had more than we expected this last year. And so they start them early and then we get to enjoy the breaks. But yeah, we're wrapping that up. Kids are all over the place, all three of them. And then my wife and I, Nicole, will be celebrating 22 years.
Congrats.
Next month. Yeah.
Congrats.
I know we were talking about it the other day. We're like, 22, man. It's a long time.
That is a long time.
It's a long time. It's just like, we still like each other. This is really good. It's a good thing.
Man. So, Brian, kind of where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Tell us a little bit about your background, man.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. And I remember growing up, Matt, like I was on a soccer field, right? I'm the younger brother. My brother Lee is 5 years older than me. He works for the police department there in Germantown, just outside of Memphis. And my dad was a psychologist, still is, counsels pastors. He was also,
Really?
yeah, he was a pastor himself, still does some of that. But really his calling was all around helping, whether it was troubled teens, he did marriage counseling, and then later really found this sweet spot of helping not only those people, but also pastors who have nowhere to go. My dad's always been a phenomenal mentor, just a wise man beyond his years, sharing not only his faith, but teaching me things and always out on the ball fields, traveling to all my games. And my mom's very similar, hard worker, worked for the city of Memphis, retired there over 25 years and was just always, we were the house, Matt, if you can remember, like the boys would come over to because there was food. It was a safe place. Like, not that we got in a lot of trouble in high school, but we'll just say like we had fun.
Oh, yeah.
And our house was the one that everybody would want to come over to and just was like very warm and like loving in the sense of all that. And I was like, was it perfect? No, but I'm blessed to say like two phenomenal parents. My dad will be 81 actually next week, and my mom. And so we still talk and go through all that. But I mean, my whole identity was really created on the soccer field. I was traveling, playing basketball was my primary sport. And if you've met me, I am not 6 feet tall.
No,
and so
I would
quickly,
never have guessed that.
Yeah, it's like one of those you go, okay, growing up in Memphis, very competitive basketball culture. That's what we got pushed towards. Yeah, like you look at University of Memphis, Penny Hardaway, you probably.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he's now coaching at Memphis. And I'll just kind of give you some context is like, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. Well, around 13, it was very clear that soccer had become a better sport for me. I got picked up that year for what they call the under 15 national team pool.
Oh,
That's what you'll see now. Like U15,
I've heard about that. Yep.
U17, U18. I mean, there's all these different age groups. So basically, it was an opportunity where someone saw talent in me and said, hey, this is like, you're good at this. Maybe you could go do something. And I continued on that. That ended up paving my way to pay for college, ended up staying and actually playing all 4 years, started all 4 years at University of Memphis. At Memphis.
Dude,
which is
legit.
Man, totally side story. I thought I was going to a couple of other schools. One of those was UConn, and the coach was retiring at that time. And Memphis, the coach had reached out and had built a relationship. And it was for me, I could compete for a spot. And I was fortunate to come in my freshman year. And not only did I compete, but I earned the starting spot and never gave that up. But funny side story of, you want something bad enough. And they talk about when you're willing to do whatever it takes. During one of the sessions, literally, Matt, in the summer heat in Memphis in August, it gets scorching. And I was training. I ended up passing out. I had trained so hard was giving it everything. They had to put 2 IVs in me. It took me inside. My whole body's in a cramp. Like I've lost all this water weight. And so I remember the doctor telling me, well, you gotta go eat some Big Macs, get some pizza. We got to get some calories in
What?
you are not gonna make it if you don't eat. And I'm like, I thought eating clean. He goes, you are burning so much. You need so many more calories. And it was a lesson in life. And I share all that story just to go, man, when you're competing for stuff, you're learning things, and you only learn sometimes as you fail and fall down. And I learned in that moment, okay, I went way too far to one side of it. But all that tell you, like soccer was my life, still is. I still coach and volunteer, part of the board. Like I love to still
Wow.
play over 40. Like it's a huge part of my identity and my competitive nature that carries out all over now.
So Brian, are you a striker?
I am a goalkeeper.
No way.
I was one of few professionally in USL and MLS and all that to be under 6 feet. And there's a few of us that we know each other and respect each other. And for those of you who know how hard the position is, the typical prototype is clearly
No.
not me. And I tell people to start all 4 years, D1 and everything that's there, and to go on and do the things I was able to do. I go, man, it taught me a lot is
Dude,
sometimes,
mad
sometimes,
respect. That's
yeah,
beast mode.
it's a lot of lessons we could share and unpack, but I tell people all the time is never give up on your dream. Is all you need is one person, one coach, one person to see what's greatness inside of you and to give you the opportunity, right? Because how many teams and coaches said no to me? Plenty. I
Yeah.
just needed one to say yes. Give me a shot.
Wow. I did not know any of that.
So I'm
So
bringing it, man. Like I figured you'd
no,
enjoy some of the stories of
no,
like
I
most people will
love
never
that.
guess that. They're like,
Yes, I
yeah, you'd be a
never.
striker, a midfielder, like
No,
fit the build
man,
for it.
dude,
Like,
honestly, I'm a wrestler. That's what I did in high school. I was on a 4-time state champion team. I was a state champion myself. I thought you were a wrestler. Like your
I look a little
build?
different than I did when I played soccer. The pictures of me then, I was probably a good 10, 15 pounds lighter. And, I hadn't gotten into lifting weights and all the stuff that obviously I do now. But I tell everybody is I trained so much because this, I'm sure in wrestling, like there's things you can't control. Like one for me, like my height, right? And I'm sure there's things in wrestling, like you're a certain weight category, like you
Yep.
go outside of that, that's where you're going to wrestle
Yep.
means you have to be excellent. Like literally, you have to dedicate yourself to be so great in all the other areas because you can't have 2 areas of deficiency.
Nope.
I told everybody, I was like, I can't not be fast. I can't not have good cardio. I can't not have good hands. I can't not be good with my feet. I can't not be good at crosses. I can't not be good at reviewing film. Like I just don't have that option because I won't get picked up anywhere.
Mm-mm.
And it pushes you to go, okay, what has God given me? What do I have to work with? I'm going to make that my superpower, my strengths, and stand out because I can't change
Hmm.
the other things.
We have a lot of similarities. My mother is a professional therapist also. Um, and she wasn't a licensed therapist when we were all growing up. So there's 3 boys in my family: Matthew, Mark, and Luke. No John.
Oh,
Um, but every night that I would come home or I was having issues with my girlfriend or my friends, I mean, dude, without her like talking to me, man. So to have a dad, a father that does that for you,
yeah,
what a lucky man.
yeah, yeah. Well, I look at it this way as lucky, and I think God really had that set in motion because that's part of what I believe then the calling for me is, okay,
Mm,
what can I now do with what I've been given? And a lot of people have a very different story and I'm always understanding and respectful of that. Like maybe you didn't grow up with that. You're starting from where you are, but what are
mhm.
the things you have been gifted with? What is your perspective? And you can reach people that I can't reach, that you went through different experiences. But I look at it this way, that is given that the most important thing is now what am I going to do with that? And so I do feel that calling of, okay, now how do I take all of that, make it even better, share it with my 3 kids, really the guys in my life, how do I impact them and create strong men with strong families, strong faith, strong fitness, like strong financial, backing and wisdom. And how do we go out and impact the world? And so
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, a little head start. Absolutely.
this makes a
And,
lot of
and
sense.
use it.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean,
Yeah.
as a goalie, you're like the catcher of a baseball team. Like you're calling out plays, you're calling out people, you're communicating constantly. So, that was a big part. Plus, you have the wisdom of your dad and how to handle stress and anxiety and depression and how to push through barriers. And now you're teaching your kids the same things that he taught you, and you're researching more about that. Wow, man, Brian.
Crazy. I'll tell you this story I share with people a lot when I get to travel and speak is I'll never forget high school soccer team, right? And we were fortunate. Like we had this like dynasty of like, I think 3 or 4 of us went on to play professionally. Like it was that kind of high school that we
Holy
won
moly.
3 out of 4 state championships. Like it was just one of those you go, we just thought that was normal, right? Like we just had these ballers
I
that were there.
understand that. I
Yeah,
totally understand that.
you just think it's normal. Like you're like,
Yep.
this is what it is. And now going through it with kids, I go, oh wow, like that team wins one, maybe they win two, but nobody wins that. And
Can we
they went
unpack that a
on.
second?
Yeah.
Because I've thought about this a lot. Like why? Why were we so blessed to have so much success? Well, Brian, in the self-development world and the business world, you know why. It's because we were around killers every day. I literally was wrestling a state champion every single day from freshman year to senior year at practice. That was practice.
Yeah.
And so you, same thing, were battling against the best of all time.
Yeah. Incredible. Like, yeah, when you put it in that perspective and you go, that's just who we trained with.
Goosebumps.
Right. And then you had the club and the travel teams and we did all that. But I will tell you the greatest gift I'll never forget when my dad would come out and actually one of the coaches brought him out to talk to the team because,
Man.
we were winning and we had all this stuff. And he's like, brought my dad out to talk and he taught us all visualization.
What?
Literally in high school. Right. So imagine being 15.
What year was
15.
this? What year? How old are you? How old are you going to be?
I'll be 47.
I'm 47. I just turned 47.
Okay. So, hey, same next week, August 2nd for me. For anybody out there, all my fellow Leos. Yeah, I was freshman year, sophomore year, and he would come out and teach us all about visualization. We're closing our eyes and we're all kind of like,
what?
Does this stuff work? And let's be real. We're high school boys. Like,
well, in the 90s too, bro.
Correct. So you get it because you've been exposed to this. And I go, that gift I have used over and over and over and over. And it was a competitive edge for me.
Always.
All the way through college, all the way through my jobs I've done, professional rankings. Everybody's good in the professionals. Like, let's just call it they're all fast, they're all skillful, they're all committed, but there is a mindset difference between the greats and then those that just never make it there. And,
all right.
And visualizations.
I want
incredible.
You to unpack it. I want you to unpack the visualization because I was not blessed. I had to kind of learn all this on my own. And luckily my mom, bless her, would say to me, Matt, if you believe you can, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Mom.
Yeah.
But
there's affirmation statements. And what I would tell you, what I learned about visualization early on, and then I'll tell you what I know now, which is 20 plus years of doing this, is early on, he was teaching us simply to close our eyes and be still, which most of us in this world can't do. It's a struggle. Try to close your eyes and be still without a distraction. Be sitting there with your own thoughts for 1 minute. Most people struggle. They're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do this for 5 minutes. Start with 1 minute. And what I remember my dad teaching us was, I want you to see the game as if it's a movie. I want you to think about the plays you're going to make. I want you to make the plays perfectly like you would. Because in this movie, you get to be the writer. Matt, you get to actually say, I made the pass and nobody intercepted it. I made the save and it was an unbelievable shot, but I made it because I get to write the script and the story. And so you start from that place of, okay, I'm going to script out, what have I done in a game that I think is going to happen in this game? And I'm playing out a movie. So when the game starts, I've already seen it. It is second nature. I don't even think about it. I'm like, cool, the ball comes in. I already see my open player. And it's like the best movie. Think about your favorite movie you've ever seen. You could probably quote the lines, right? Like, what's coming next.
Oh, yeah.
If I've never seen the movie, I'm like, what's going to happen? I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. I'm distracted. The movie will play out so much slower for the person that's done visualization, but the game's going at a speed at which it's just boom, 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 boom. Yep. Now, once you've done that, the second part to this is you need to experience some failure. You need to actually go through and go, okay, I didn't make the pass right. I gave up the ball. Somebody took the ball from me. Somebody scored on me. I now get to program in my response. Think about this. How many times have you had something happen that you weren't thinking about and you go, oh crap, I'm in my feelings for a minute, or I get mad, I get frustrated. When you do this part of it, most people will miss this. I'm actually experiencing the emotion. So when it happens in the game, there is little to no emotion. I get scored on, so what? I know I'm going to show up. I'm going to make the next play. I've already seen myself make these other saves and great plays. I've seen myself score the goal. I've seen myself come back. I've seen myself in a very difficult situation and respond properly. Most people don't go through these two areas of it. What I would tell you, when you go through this and you do it more and more, and then you start to actually go out on the field or in life or business, you go out and you do these things that you've seen, things are not surprising you anymore. You're not surprised by success. You're not surprised when something doesn't go your way. And you actually realize, wow, there's a whole lot up here I am in control of. And now I get to write my own story. That's what creating a life by design to me looks like. So I use it today, not only with my business decisions, I use it going into difficult conversations with people on our team. I use it before I'm going into presentations. I use it before I'm going to speak.
Man,
and I want to see these things ahead of time. And I think God has gifted us with, some of us more than others, but being able to see this is what's going to happen. And then when I go and do it, wouldn't it be cool if I've already done it? And now I'm just walking into that. That's the power. You start to see what visualization can do for you, will do for you. And the more reps you do, I'm 20 plus years into it. I'm like, it's just second nature for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm still learning with it. Like, oh man, okay, I could have done that better. I should have thought about that. And you're just wiring your brain in such a way that you can compete and you can show up your best every day.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack with that because, I've been doing this for a long time also. This matter of fact, I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. Just when? I don't know. How? I don't know. But I know it's going to happen. So I want to talk about that because you're a very optimistic guy, very kind man. You're very aware of your feelings and other people's feelings because you grew up in it, just like I did. In your family that were not raised by your father and in the house that you were in your business, your friends, your colleagues, the people that were around you. Now, I'm saying this because I've experienced this and I want to know how you've handled it, right? When you already know something's going to happen and like 99.9%, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But there's no proof. There's no data. There's no statistics. How do you get your team, your family, that are not astute with this knowledge, with this wisdom, with this feeling, with this spirit, this magic, right? How do you communicate with them and get them to believe and have faith that it is going to happen, to have trust in your vision?
Well, great conversation. And I will tell you, you have to meet people where they are. Yeah. Meet people where they are means you see the greatness in them. And you also recognize none of us are perfect. None of us have it all figured out. Mm-hmm. None of us are going to show up every day and it's going to be all wins all day, every day. And what's there, when you meet somebody where they are, you can see that potential of what could be. And if you support that, I don't believe it's my role, especially as a parent, to point out things that most people already know. Number one. Our kids already have enough negative energy coming at them. They already have enough grades being told that they didn't get 100, they got this, and why they didn't do that. They're already dealing with enough social pressure and the amount of social media and the things that they're dealing with, being told they're not this, they're not that, they're not in that group. I mean, there's so many cliques today that I think you support what they're great at and you're honest and truthful with them about what that is. Like in you, if you're great at something, I'm going to reinforce that. And how do we make that strength a superpower?
Mm.
And I think that's where most people miss it is we think we've got to be the one to come in and fix them and correct them and change them and do all that stuff. But the reality is everyone's self-discovery journey, including my own, is the one thing I respect the most about my dad as I look back on that is he never came to me and told me the things I wasn't good at, couldn't do or shouldn't do or any of like that kind of, it was, hey, here's how you can go do that. And it's always this what if mentality. Well, what if I did this? Could I get faster? Yeah, if I train correctly, I can get faster. Well, what if in business, I don't have the skills today, but I want to be the person that's in the front line of sales, for example. Well, what if I actually went and trained and learned scripting, or I learned how to listen better? I learned what to say, what not to say, and all these things. What if? Like, what if I got great at that? And so I always look at it from the standpoint of our job as a leader is to cast the vision so big, including my family, that everyone in there, their goals, their dreams, their aspirations can all fit under a tent. The best leaders, like think about a John Maxwell. His leadership tent and vision is so big that anyone that listens to him, reads any of his wonderful books, right? I mean, he just wrote High Road Leadership, phenomenal book. You can see yourself in the journey and in the mission with him. I think that's where a lot of leaders get very myopic of, we've got to cast a vision so big that it inspires people, but also along the way, what are they uniquely designed to do within that? What's their role? Like in the family, I have a very specific role as dad, husband, all like that's very specific. I can't be my wife. Like that's where a lot of people get this screwed up. And I know some people will probably disagree with this, but the reality is like, my belief is God created man and woman.
Yeah.
Very intentional roles in that relationship. And when they're done well, things go well together. And the same for our kids. When I show up and I'm the example for them, I don't think it's any chance. It's not luck that my kids work out and train and enjoy doing some of that, right?
Yeah.
Some more than others. But it's not by accident. They saw this is what we do.
Yeah. They caught it.
Yeah. They as one of my mentors would say is, you know, these things, they are caught, not taught. Right? And they catch it. They see you doing it. They see how you respond. They see your manners. And in business, if you have the blessing to be a leader in whatever capacity, they are watching what you do way more than what you say. And so all that to kind of full circle of show up and be the leader that you are in your space, and you'll inspire other people. Like I know I've aspired to be like other people, but when I got really honed in on who I am, who God created me to be, the world starts to open up. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like this is just who I am. Like I'm not trying to be someone else. And that's where people fall into some of that. Like they go, oh, they're not authentic or they're not this. It's just because they're trying to be like someone that's not really, that's not who God designed them to be.
No.
And we all fall into that trap. I've done it a million times of like, man, I love that leader. I want to be like them. And now I'm chasing that versus chasing like what's inside me. And that's what we need to bring out and amplify up.
Let's unpack that too, Brian. This is so good. So just like you played soccer, I wrestled, I love to sing. I don't know if you sing, but
The bass.
you're a bass.
Bass
Of course
player.
you're a bass. Of course.
Makes sense.
But imitation is the beginning, I think, is where I'm going. You know, when I don't know when did you hear about Ed Milet? When did you hear about him?
It's probably been 5, 6 years, maybe
Same.
7. Yeah,
Same.
somewhere around there.
And you joined Arate when?
3, 4, what is this? 4 years now.
Okay. So we found out about Ed about the same time. And up until that time in my life, I didn't know anything about personal development. I knew nothing. I was a public school teacher teaching choir, man. Like that's what I did. And for 20 years, I taught people one on one over Zoom or in real life, singing lessons. I joined Arate in 2019 and I started, and I'll just tell you the quick story. I was at the first live event in St. Louis, and Stephanie Van Dam from Canada turns around to me and she goes, Matt, I got to tell you something. I said, what? She goes, did you know that Tony Robbins has a voice coach? And I was like, I can do this. I can totally do this. The next day, made the business plan, reached out to everyone I met. Nathan Mansfield in San Antonio, Texas. He gave me a shot. He was my first client. And I told him all these things. I'm going to do this and this. And he goes, I'm going to give you a shot. But I say that because when I started learning about Ed, I talked like Ed. I talked like Andy. I talked like David Goggins, right? Because it's imitation. You know, we heard like Jocko, or we hear, you know, all these incredible speakers. And we're like, man, where do I fit in? And I think for me personally, I want to know what you had to do and who you listened to. But for me, I had to do a lot of like self-reflection, deep work, like that was not fun at all. Yeah. I had to go to therapy. I had to do some hypnotherapy, but really unpack like the whole part of me, the God part, the what God created Matt to do, Matt's purpose, which we're going to get to yours in a second. But I love this idea, Brian. There's two questions I'm asking. One is, who did you listen to? How did that form for you? And two, a really good question that I unfortunately messed up on in divorce now. Since, you know, last August 5th, my ex-wife told me on a Zoom call, Matt, I'm divorcing you. And I was in Austria. So that was very painful. I muted. It was carnal. It was horrible. But God had to shake me up, man. Mm-hmm. Shake me up for me to learn a valuable lesson of giving more energy to Max and Leo and my family. Yeah. So that's my next question is, how have you communicated with your wife, with your kids, this lifestyle that you have, right? You travel, you speak, you're gone sometimes, you're busy. You're a busy freaking dude. So is that constant communication? Is that something that you set down the troops and said, all right, here's the whiteboard. This is what I'm doing. This is where we're going. Like, and be honest about it. Cause I know it's not easy.
No. So the first one, I mean, Ed's been a big one. I love John Maxwell, man. I just love John Maxwell. There's some other guys, Andy Stanley, you know, pastor out of Atlanta there. I've had some phenomenal pastors along the way that I've listened to and gone through. If I were to pick anybody, I gotta come back to John Maxwell's always resonate. I got to meet him a few years ago and actually got to speak at the same event. And it was this whole moment. Oh yeah. Like one of my friends was putting it on and, you know, John was the headliner, of course. And, you know, I'm like, and I'm meeting John, and it's like this moment, almost like the visualization earlier of him going, I'd seen myself meet him and what I would say. And I was still nervous, right? I mean, let's be real. Like I'm still nervous because it's John Maxwell. And I just remember this kind of aura about him that was so calming. And he's like, hey, I'm John and I'm your friend.
Oh, wow.
And you're like,
come on, man.
Okay. So if someone, obviously it's that type of impact in the things that are there can do that, like that was just an inspiration to me to go, he's just on a whole nother level. Like, what can I learn from that? And so one of the things that I've really worked on is like just being relatable, right? In all stages of my growth, making sure that I do share the ups and the downs and the things that I'm learning and the things that I've struggled with and all that. Just so, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're relatable, people are going to ask for your help, which is what you want. Like, you know, all of us didn't go, I want to help the person that's where I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And if you're not relatable, which a lot of people on social media are not, realize it or not. And it's like, well, I'm not going to ask them a question. And I don't know if you ever had this happen, but there's been people, even recently, speakers or trainers, coaches, all that. And you want to ask them something. There's just something about them where you're like, I think I'm going to feel worse.
Yep.
Like, I don't even think they're going to get me. Like,
Yep.
so I'm just not even going to ask. And so I say all that to say you need people in your life. I've got a core group of 6 men that we text, we go back and forth, we share Bible verse. Like it's very cool. It's very, very intentional. And we don't even talk that often,
Mm.
right? Like, but I know they have my back. I know they send things. We'll send pictures of our family or where we're speaking or what we're doing. And it's just a reminder of we all hold a certain standard within that group. None of us are perfect. You know, we've all got flaws and things that we've all shared, but we all know each other's stories and go, man, we love each other anyway.
Mm.
And I'm fortunate. Most of those, they're further along. I'm the baby. I'm the younger one in the group. And it's just cool. So I share that with people. If you're listening, is you need those people in your life that hold a standard that you can look to and go, okay, if they were with me, would I make the same decision?
Yep.
If they were with me, would I be going and doing this? Or would I be going and doing that? And that could be just like as simple as, I haven't worked out. It's like 3 o'clock today. I mean, seriously, like we
That's so
overthink this
real.
stuff, right? Like I go, oh man, if they knew I didn't work out today, like I use that kind of weird kind of
No,
psychology to
I
go,
love it.
you know what? I'm gonna go do this. Or, you know, it could be with food, or it could be a business decision of, you know what? Something about this just doesn't feel right. Like I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna say no to this. Right. And all that you want your core group there because they do guide you and they keep you in that
So if you don't
zone.
mind sharing, like, or even some mentors and coaches that have helped you, Brian, like people in your circle or mentors or coaches that you've had, who are some
Yeah.
of those people?
So maybe the one that in the past few years has been phenomenal. Actually, two guys. Ben Newman is,
Solid.
oh my goodness, what a godsend. You know, Ben, we were
Yep.
just texting this morning, and I've gone through the coach to coaches, and I've gone to his boot camps, and we've taken our teams through it. I flew Ben out to speak to our leadership team. Like we've done some stuff. Ben was one of the 3 men I reached out to when I was making my decision to change companies a year and a half ago. Right, like
Wow.
those are the people. Like, and to be able to go to someone like that and go, I mean, this is what I'm thinking. This is what they are. So Ben, without fail, and he had a very specific, just the way he's intervened and how, you know, his marriage and how he treats his
Yep.
kids and just different, like in the fitness side, he's been phenomenal.
Yep.
The other one, Rene Rodriguez, not known as much there, but he'll be speaking at Ben's boot camp. He actually, when I was getting ready to speak on stages, and I was so nervous, like, you know, one of the first ones was the one with John Maxwell, right? And then another one had Ed Milet and all these like heroes of mine. I'm going, I got to figure out this speaking thing because I am not good at this yet. But I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. And so Renee, I've gone to a lot of his events and we've spoken together. He's put me on stage at his events and given me a shot. And so Renee's been one of those cool guys just to kind of share life
That's
and all
awesome.
that with. The other one that's coming full circle, Coach Michael Burt is here in Nashville. He's opened the Greatness Factory. You may see him. He's going to be speaking at Renee's event. He's done a ton of really big stuff. He's known as kind of America's coach. He was one of the first coaches almost a decade ago that I went to one of his events here. He's like, hey, come on out. You know, I train real estate, mortgage people, financial advisors, and all. I'm like, yeah, I'll go out there. And I remember these little groups were so small.
Hmm.
We would all go out there, you know, and then now he's speaking on these big stages and he's taking me out, you know, even flown with him
Man.
out to some of his events, and just one of those guys where you go, he didn't have to show me all that stuff and like take me there. And then he's coached our group quite a bit. And also I would share those three guys over the past decade have been incredible, incredible in my world. And so hopefully everybody listening will go seek them out because they're pros.
I've heard Renee's name a couple times. I'd like to meet him. I'd like to connect with him. Now I know a guy that can help me do that. You're the guy that introduced me to the Coach Burt. Is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah. So, but Renee, you know, I appreciate what he's doing. I love what he's doing. I think I'd like to connect with him and just kind of tell him what I'm doing.
Oh,
Because I think it'd be a pretty cool synergy there.
it'd be awesome. And there's so many other guys within that. And one I'm looking forward to next month. the guy that had that event, Ken Jocelyn, that's our group of 6 that he actually created the text. And so Ken's become a really good friend. He's an EXP agent and done some really cool things. So he'll be coming to the event in September in Nashville. But, Ken's just become one of those friends where, come into Nashville and we just hang out and we talk life and all. But you always say is like, God puts certain people in your life for specific reasons. So that's my part 1 answer, a little longer.
I love it. I love it.
I want to give some people some substance. So part 2, let me see if I can unpack this right and I got to give Coach Burt credit for this. I believe he's the one that originally showed me this about 5 years ago, is Sunday planning. Do you do planning? Like, do you plan out your weeks?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, here's what I learned. I was not doing. I didn't have my wife, Nicole, involved in that plan whatsoever. I had a plan over here. I'm just like, man, here's the business meetings I got. I'm traveling. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I go, every week, man, there's this tension because, well, the kids have this and she wants me to do that and this. I'm going, it was my fault.
Yeah.
I needed to start planning with her on Sunday and go, hey, what do we got this week? Anywhere I need to be with the kids, anywhere I need to take people, like, do we have a date night? Like, what's going on this week?
This should be taught. This should be taught. Just this whole section for like people all over the world that have kids that are working. Like, this should just be something that we do on Sundays.
It should be. So I'm going to jump into the tactics. This is where most people get lost.
Let's go, Brian.
They dive into it. They plan it out. They talk. It's very superficial. You should start. If your priorities are family and you tell me your priorities are family, you should start with your family getting the first dibs at your schedule.
Man.
Let that sink in for people.
Oh, yeah.
You tell me these are your priorities in order, and family is at the top, but yet you're scheduling all of your business meetings and all of your travel and all your stuff, and you can tell me all the reasons or excuses as to why they're there. And I told myself the same ones and wondered why my marriage wasn't thriving. My health wasn't thriving. I didn't have relationships with my kids like I wanted. Well, maybe, just maybe. I had it all backwards.
Yeah.
And I was scheduling all these things I thought I had to do. And what I realized is when I started scheduling them in the order of importance, and I would put family, and obviously faith for me is an everyday thing. And so I have my time before I go work out. And I started getting intentional about my health was another big one I'd let slack. I started putting that stuff on first. And then what I found is there was all this time that I could then schedule the meetings. And there'll be certain days, certain seasons, like this week, I have a couple days that are much more intense than others.
Yep.
Okay. Like, that's life.
Yep.
But there's other days where I go, you know what? I want to make sure I pour more into my family and my kids or whatever that might be for that day. Or, you know what? I've got a little extra time. I need to work on, I want to get better at running. Like, I'm going to work out and I'm going to run. Like, I'm going to double down on my fitness today. Like, people miss out on these little opportunities to have accelerated growth. It could be in your business and you go, you know what? I got an extra couple hours today. I'm going to prospect for 2 hours intentionally and focused without interruption. And I'm going to absolutely dominate and crush it. Imagine if you got so good and you were intentionally focused on it. What I found was in 2 hours, I could get done what a lot of times I just meandered around and took 6 hours. Right? Like,
because you get distracted.
I'm doing it. Yep. And that's life. So back to the scheduling, get your schedule out. And as you go through the week, start with your priorities, work in that order, and then make sure you have things there. And this is the other tip that I was given and I learned. I started to delete so much stuff off there, Matt. Like, I had meetings from 2 and 3 weeks ago that were important. The problems had already been solved. We didn't need to meet anymore. That was part 1. Part 2 was I started to look at meetings and I'm like, how did they get an hour or 30 minutes of my time?
Yep.
Do they need it?
Yep.
I started moving my Calendly, and I've started using this. You've probably seen this. I have a 15-minute Calendly. Very intentional. People started to respect it. I set expectations. I said, hey, I know we have 15 minutes. Is it okay with you if we should go ahead and jump into what we want to talk about today? I have found successful people are like, yeah, that'd be great.
Yep.
Because they value time the same way I value time. And there'll be a point in which we slow down, we catch up, we hang out, and we just slow down. But many times I was letting my calendar run me, and I had meetings that, this is what I found. If you schedule it for 30 minutes, have you ever just taken up the entire 30 when you didn't need to?
Yeah.
Have you done that with your team members? here's what I started to have this compound effect. For all my leaders out there, you schedule a meeting for 30, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. How many times have you ended early? Because the meeting was done.
Not very many.
Not often. So what it is, the psychology behind this, by the way, is whatever the time that's allotted, we feel as if we're committed to that time. We need to use all of that time. But if you can get something conveyed in a talk, a phone call, a message, a meeting in 5 minutes versus 15 minutes, why are we wasting time?
Yep.
So that's the mindset when you own your schedule. Now, the other piece I'll tell you that I started to learn, I have a great business partner. And so you've met, Britt, she does a lot of stuff, runs the social media. There was stuff I was doing and I didn't need to do anymore. So I started to learn, where could I delegate? And I'd write things down. I don't like to edit my videos. I'm not good at it. I really don't like to post some of these social things that we're posting video. Like, I don't know what to write on the caption. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to schedule and pre-screen people for my podcast that have reached out and they want to be on the show. Like, I don't want to do that. I started to just delegate all this stuff out. You know what the beautiful thing was? Matt, Britt loves that stuff. She doesn't want to be customer facing and out doing the things and speaking on a stage and on the, she doesn't want to do any of that stuff I did. So think about today, does your team reflect all of those things that if you were able to delegate, could they execute, and are they the right people on the right seat and the right people on your team? So it's a lot to give you. The last one I'll tell you, we've just been incorporating the last couple of years because, to your point, my travel is crazy. I started planning out 90 days in advance and actually write it on a piece of paper because that's the way Nicole likes to see it. And I write down any travel that I know about, the dates, what it's for, and we go through it. And she started to check me on some stuff like, hey, like, is this for work? Is this like for your speaking? Like, do you need to do this? Like, and she'll ask me and I look and go, yeah, I need to do this because it's this, right? It's Ben Newman's event, right? I really want to go out there. And she's like, okay, cool. Hey, I'm in for that. And for some of you out there, I want you to not miss this message. When you go to these events and you come back a different person, you start getting results, your spouse and those around you will support you more. And the reason you don't have support today is because you go to the same events over and over and over and you never change, you never get results, and your spouse is like, what the heck?
Yeah. Or it's like undercover growth. And you're not sharing with them what you learned and how you're growing.
Yep.
And then they have no reason to support you.
I've done it.
Yep, me too.
Don't do it that way. I'm telling you guys, like, when you get committed to this and you truly are intentionally focused on that and you're truly committed, when you come back, you should share those things. You should tell your spouse what you learned. You should tell them what you're wanting to incorporate, and you should go get results.
Yeah.
Because then when I go ask and go, hey, you remember when I left? Like, this is what I've been able to do. Awesome. And then also listen to your spouse too. There's times where, Matt, she said, hey, I really need you home. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've said no this year. Like, more than I've spoke, by the way, just to give you
Doesn't that feel good though? Like, to be able to say no?
Don't we all want that? Like, that to me is the ultimate freedom of, I can say yes to this and I can say no to, and my life will go on. I don't know what I don't know. If I spoke at that event, was something else going to happen? Maybe. But I chose a different route and I own that and I live with it. So that would be some of the tactics, some of the mindset, strategy things. If you're going through it today, everyone can do it on Sunday night. Plan it out, map it out, look at your calendar. I live by mine. If it's not on there, it ain't happening.
Well, I just love the communication, how clear it is. And I love that you are teaching by giving her a visual and writing it down in front of her, because everybody learns different and everybody sees things differently. I'm an affirmation guy. Like, I like words, obviously. I like sounds. Yeah. Visuals are not really my thing. Like, I like to hear it. So it's cool that you're able to, switch that for her. That's awesome, man. Brian, we haven't talked about what you actually do as a career yet. So I think you should talk about that for a second.
Well, short answer is I help people create massive net worth through home ownership. Okay.
Love that. Sign
Simple,
me up.
Right? Be like, whoa, And I share that one line because I think everybody needs the one line. And they go, hold on. What I do, like behind the scenes, underneath that, and people go, oh, well, tell me about, like, what do you actually do? I'm like, well, I've been in the mortgage business for 23 years. So I've helped thousands of people buy, sell investment properties, second homes, first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, create that dream and what they want, because we all know home ownership matters, but it's emotional. Logically, you need a pathway to get from point A to point B. And what I know is the average net worth of a homeowner is almost $400,000 versus a renter today, which is only around $10,000. And so when you look at those numbers and go, do I want to be in the $10,000 average or the 400,000? And so the stats tell us, and the data just says, if we can help people create that dream and home ownership and buy a home, then we know we can set them up for greater net worth over time. And so I've just gotten very fascinated, very curious about, I've originated loans for all those years and then build teams. And what I've learned is there's things that we've not been taught in school. Things like budgeting, things like when should you buy a home? How should you buy a home? What does that look like when you buy a home? My favorite books by David Bach. Everybody should read this. Automatic Millionaire Homeowner. I think he just came out with the Audible too, by the way. And it was one of the books that changed the course of Nicole and I's life. Is when we were buying our first home, we'd just gotten engaged. Nicole was a nurse in the ICU. I had my first job. I'm driving like an hour away doing like credit finance, right? Like we're financing furniture and automobiles, like super sexy.
Go, Brian.
I would dress up all day, cold call people, help them finance their furniture. 0 payments, 0 interest. And through all that, I learned most people don't understand credit. They don't understand assets. They don't understand any of it. And I had people, imagine being in your 20s and I'm helping people in their 50s who still haven't figured it out yet.
Yep.
So it just told me, like, the system's broken. We aren't teaching people. And so I got on this mission of, well, how do I help my friends buy houses, right? Because, I mean, that was the first group. I wanted to buy a house. Friends wanted to buy a house. What Nicole and I discovered was we were able to move from where we were renting and buy a home. $149,000 for everybody. I give numbers because I think it matters in context. Like we're paying $1,100 a month. We were able to buy about $1,100 a month mortgage. We're so excited. We barely could afford it. Like we're just saving. We're doing the Dave Ramsey envelope system, which Nicole hated. And it's like we're eating peanut butter sandwiches, making mac and cheese, and like we're just figuring stuff out. Well, all the while, what I learned through that was one of the greatest wealth building tools that I now teach people. And I'll just give you one of those strategies, which is when we moved out of that house and we eventually moved up years later, we rented that house and we were able to cover our mortgage. We saved up enough to put 5% down, I believe it was, or 10% at the time, and move into our next home. And we didn't go crazy. We bought like a $300,000 house, right? Like we didn't go completely nuts, but I was making more. Cole was making more. We paid off some debt. Like we were ready. But I share that strategy because everyone needs to think about that is buying a home today within your budget you can afford. It may not be the best area, the absolute desired spot, may not be the biggest home you can have. But if you can buy into that, and then you can move out in 2 years and rent it, and you buy the next home, and then you do that every 2 to 3, 4 years, you look up and when you're our age, how many homes could I have? 8, 10 that are being rented. And so there's this pathway to net worth that a lot of people don't consider because they want to skip the steps like we do in success.
Yeah.
And they want to go from, I'm not going to buy that house in that neighborhood. No, I think I deserve the $500,000 house today. Yeah. So I'm going to skip all that. And they wonder why they can never get out of that hamster wheel in that race. And it's because we haven't taught people. And I know some people are not going to love that message and agree. And they're like, but I should get this and I should get that. Hey, look, we all think we should. But if you were to follow this steps and all the investment over time, this is what people do. So today, dude, I get to help build teams, teach people that. So they advise clients every day wisely. It's not just about getting a mortgage. It's actually about looking at your total financial picture. We set you up for success. So I love it. Get to partner with real estate agents, as you know, and help them because I think the education barrier today is what really exists. It's not low inventory and high interest rates and all that. Our first home was 7%. So I just go,
whoa.
Oh yeah. 2002. We closed in May. So yeah, I just look, there's a formula, there's clues, and I love to help people win in the game of real estate because those net worth numbers, they don't lie.
Man. All right. You guys need some help with the mortgages. Look up Brian Covey. He'll hook you up. Um, so man, dude, we could go on for like another hour. And I am going to see you soon in real life.
Can't wait.
We're gonna be in Nashville August 11th, 12th for a little site visit, and then obviously for the event, I'm gonna hang out with you. Um, but I'm really excited about these 4 questions because you're not afraid to be vulnerable. You're not afraid to show who you are. These are 4 questions that I ask um, any client, any student I've worked with in the last 20 years. So these 4 questions have always been the same. All right. First question is this: Brian, what do you love more than anything in the whole world?
Oh, man, that's a good one. Uh, I'm gonna go with Jesus because when I was at my rock bottom and didn't know which way I was gonna go and dealing with some stuff as a teenager, not only did my dad, but a couple other mentors showed me that the reason I was feeling that and broken because I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. Even though I'd been to church, thought I knew all this stuff. I'm gonna say that because man, he's changed my life, and my wife and I, we aligned so much on that. And our youngest just got baptized a year ago,
Hmm.
and I look at what he's done in my life and my family, and I go, I wouldn't be who I am.
Hmm. Goosebumps. Okay, next question. What makes you tick? What gets you excited about life?
I'm highly competitive, massively. Like, you want to compete at ping pong? You want to go compete like cutting the grass? Like I love to compete. I play over 40 soccer, if that tells you anything.
Yes.
I just, I just love to compete. So I do the CrossFit
Why?
style
Why?
workouts. I think as a kid, I found my identity outside of all the struggles I had with drugs and different things and trying to fit into crowds. I found on the field, we were all equal.
Yeah.
No one cared how much your parents made, what they did, where you came from, what happened last night. No one cared. Everybody had a chance that day to show up and compete and to be a winner and to deal with adversity. And being a competitor doesn't always mean you win. But I love the thrill of competition. Just still lights me up. Like,
I
it's
have to
just,
ask this question because I also am very competitive. James Lawrence was on the podcast also. He was like back in February. He's going to be at the event. And I saw, this is so funny, but I saw on social media that he was playing Settlers of Catan. It's a board game with his family. Okay, I see your face, you know. And I said, James, I love that game. He goes, Matt, I will crush you. And I was like, oh, okay, James,
okay, then.
we are going to play in Nashville. So, Brian, if you want a seat at the table to play some Settlers of Catan with James Lawrence and myself, I think that would be a blast.
I'll be fine. I don't even know what the game is. It just
You need to
sounds
check it
fun.
out.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up now. Like, we play a lot of ping pong in our house now. New ping pong table added recently.
Oh,
So
boy.
board games have gotten a little back seat. Ping
Yeah.
pong has
Well,
taken the front.
think about like the best board game you've ever played on steroids. And you don't kill anyone. It's about negotiation. It's about build. It's about probability and dice. It's about communication, negotiation. But it's ultimately about winning. Like you get victory points. Yeah.
Speaking my language.
Yeah. Okay, so the question I was going to ask about that is, are you a good loser?
I'm working on it.
Oh, I love that answer.
I mean,
I can't wait for
yeah.
Angela to see this because she gets so irritated with me because I have to win. I love winning. And when I
Working
lose,
on
I'm like, She's like, why can't you
Work in
just let
progress.
people win? Yeah, it totally is. But I totally get the CrossFit thing too. I'm going to go there today and kick my butt because I like it. And you know what
Yeah.
else I like? This pace. Don't talk to me in the gym. Don't have a conversation. If I see you talking, I think a little less of you for a second.
Yeah. Like, what's going on? Why are you
Yeah,
not? Shouldn't be talking that much.
exactly. Okay, Brian, this is good. Next question. What are Brian's purposes?
Ooh, I know my number one is to be a great husband. And I don't take that lightly. I think that is one, like if you just look biblically, is that's why man and woman and marriage and how God has really ordained that. And then secondarily is to be a great dad to Presley and Davis and to Henry, my three kids.
Mm,
And then the third one is then it expands out into my community is how do I show up and be an example to those that God's put in my pathway and to live by example and to live by faith and to share, hey, what have I learned and to make that impact. And so I think they're in those orders.
last question. The one that we're all trying to figure out on this earth. Why is Brian Covey on earth?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. I believe that things that I have been through uniquely to me, whether it's the athlete side, whether it's dealing with friends and all that stuff. We got in some troubles, teenagers and all the stuff there, or being married now with Nicole and I, and knowing what we've been through to get to 22 years and raising three kids and successful businesses, failed businesses. I believe all those experiences uniquely qualified me to help the person where I was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I never take that lightly is I believe that is the ultimate mission and purpose is how do I then go serve them? And one of my good friends here, Rory Vaden, shares this a lot is I've really been intentional about becoming service centered instead of self-centered.
Mm.
And in the service game, you can only win.
Yep.
You can only win. When you are self-centered and being highly competitive, I know this, there are wins and losses.
Yep.
And when we're serving people, especially those people that we can relate to, we're uniquely qualified because we've been there. Like I think about college athletes and people in the financial sector or people that have kids and dealing with all the stresses and pressures and all this stuff going on. I go, I mean, it would be really hard for someone that's never been married, never had kids, to help someone that's dealing with teenagers and all of that. Like I go, never take that lightly. That's why I believe God put me here is he's allowed me to go through all these things, successes and lessons and failures to go, hey, you've been through it, man. Go help people.
Yep.
Go help people. Go serve.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. And I know we're going to do it again. I already know that's going to happen again. How can people get a hold of you?
Oh, our new website has been updated. So just my name, it's www.briancovey.com. Instagram, I had to put the before my name because someone already had my name back in the day when they would try to sell it to you. Crazy stuff back then. Yep. So yeah, I had to put the in front of it. Yeah. So hit me up. I'm on Instagram, respond there, but the website's got everything that I'm into and doing. And I do respond. I'm the one that responds with the messages.
He does. So, he is one of the best communicators over text that, is in my circle. And I really appreciate that because that's one of the most frustrating things in the world to me is when you communicate with people intentionally and then it's just dark.
Yeah. I value great communication. And so if I don't lead with that and live that myself, hard to expect it back.
Brian, I think we should plug the Atlas Alliance Summit also right now. Brian's going to be speaking on day 2 of the summit. I will be introducing him on that massive stage. Yeah. And so one of my bucket lists, Brian, back in 2019 when I joined was to be on the same stage with Ed Milet. And I get to do that in September with you.
How about it?
Isn't that awesome?
That's incredible.
So please get your tickets for the Atlas Summit. Brian's going to be speaking. What are you going to be speaking on?
We're going down the path of not just leadership, but some things we've talked about today is how do you live a fully integrated and intentional life?
Perfect. Love it. I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to hang out with you. Thank you guys for listening to this show. Subscribe, go like Brian, follow Brian. And if you need some help from Brian, he is definitely going to help you. He's got some great mentors, great circle. And thank you so much for being on the show, Brian.
It's an honor. Thanks, Matt.
Talk to you guys later.